and Jack and come to this great zoo. And you know, I feel really bad standing here in the shade while you're all in the sun. There's nothing much I can do about it, really. I was giving a talk, believe it or not, in North Korea in the winter when they have no heating at all, and everybody was in their great thick coats, and I realized they put a heater on the floor for me, and so I turned it off. But I can't bring the sun in here, so I want to start off by greeting all of you wonderful people in a way which some of you, I don't know why it's doing this to me. What am I doing wrong? You can hear this noise it's making. Anyway, I want to give you the greeting you would hear if you came with me to Gombe National Park. Climb up the hills in the morning, listen, and you hope to hear a chimpanzee greeting the day. And I'll bet you if there was a chimpanzee here, it might answer, because sometimes they do. What is so amazing is that here we are on the 14th of July this year. It will be the 50th anniversary of the day when I arrived in Gombe National Park, all those years ago, half a century ago. And we are still studying the same group of chimpanzees, although all of those I knew in the early days have sadly gone. Even Fifi, who was 1 year old in 1960, we lost her 4 years ago. It was very sad. It was like my last link with the past, although Fifi's family still continue to wander the hills of Gombe. And there's a wonderful research team there, many Tanzanians as well as students from around the planet. And so we're still learning new things. Of course, now we have new technologies. We finally know who the fathers are. We used to guess, because there's no long-term bonds between non-related adult males and females, except there are bonds between mothers and their grown sons, but that's nothing to do with sex. And we now know, just from collecting little fecal samples and sending them off to a lab and having the DNA profiled, we know who the fathers are. Whole new area of research. Can there be any special relationship with a male and his biological offspring? I doubt it, but you never know. And we have wonderful new technology for making accurate maps and showing every tree to work out chimpanzee ranges and also the foods that they eat and where they are and why they're there. So the basic thing though, I mean, what makes me still so fascinated is that every chimpanzee has his or her own personality. They're as different from each other as we are. And they have minds capable of rational thought. They were found in 1960 to be not only using tools to fish for termites, but making tools. And as at that time we were defined as man, the tool maker, Louis Leakey, my mentor, sent me a telegram saying, now we must redefine man, redefine tool, or accept chimpanzees as humans. No question but that chimpanzees have emotions. You know, when I was eventually sent to Cambridge University, when I arrived at Gombe I had no degree of any sort, but Louis Leakey told me that I would have to get a degree so I could find money for myself in the future. He got the early money, I would have to get money afterwards, and therefore I needed a degree, and there was no time to mess about with a BA. I would need a PhD, so I went straight for a PhD. All the professors told me I'd done everything wrong. The chimpanzees should have had numbers, I shouldn't have given them names, it wasn't scientific, and I couldn't talk about them having personality, mind, or emotion, because those were unique to us. But any one of you who's spent your life in a meaningful way with an animal, whether it's a dog, a cat, a cow, a pig, a parrot, or whatever, knows that that's not true. We know that animals have personalities and minds, and certainly feelings. So I was able to stick to my guns, as it were, because my childhood teacher was vivid in my mind, and that was my dog Rusty. He taught me all that stuff long before I met a chimpanzee. So why am I not there now? This place that I love, this beautiful forest, these amazing chimpanzee beings on the shore of beautiful Lake Tanganyika, because chimpanzees are vanishing. These beings who perhaps more than any other have made us understand there is no sharp line dividing us from the rest of the animal kingdom. This is something which indigenous people have always known. Many other people in the East realize there is no division between humans and animals, but the chimpanzees have taught the Western world that this is true. And they are vanishing in the wild, along with so many other amazing animal species around the world. Chimpanzees are vanishing, just like the burying beetles were vanishing until Lissu and Luperotti decided that it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen for American burying beetles to vanish. And we believe that chimpanzees, in the same way, we shall prevent their vanishing in the wild. Somehow we will do it. So I began traveling around in Africa, talking to heads of state when I could, or environment ministers, but also NGOs on the ground, talking about what was going on. So what was going on? Human populations growing, forests disappearing as they were cut down to make space for crops, for human habitation, logging companies coming in from outside and opening up the forest with roads. And so chimpanzees were disappearing because they were losing their habitat. They were disappearing because they were caught in wire snares set for other animals for food. The chimpanzee can break the snare, but he can't get the wire off his wrist or his foot, and many of them die agonizing deaths. And then the bushmeat trade. That's not the hunting that's happened for hundreds of years, where people were shooting animals simply to feed themselves and their families. The bushmeat trade is commercial, and it entails people going out now along the logging roads, and they shoot every single thing that can be cut up and sold in the markets, whether it's an elephant, a gorilla, a chimp, a monkey, a bird, or a bat. And so chimpanzee numbers dropped from way over 1 million in 1960 when I began. There's no more than 300,000 now, stretched across 21 nations. And many of those remaining chimpanzees are in small, fragmented patches of forest with no opportunity to interact with others, so there will be big problems of inbreeding. This is what happened to Gombe. And when I flew over this whole area in Tanzania in the early 90s and looked down and saw that outside the little forest oasis of the tiny 30 square mile national park, all the trees had gone. They were just gone, and the once forested land was looking more like a desert. How could we even try to save these chimpanzees if the people living around were starving? More people living on the land than it could support, too poor to buy food from elsewhere. And that led to a program called Take Care, T-A-C-A-R-E. I won't go into it now, but it's a program which is a very holistic program aimed at improving the lives of the people living in the villages around Gombe in an environmentally sustainable way. And it was a program where a team of Tanzanians went into the villages, not a team of white people saying arrogantly, "We're sorry for you, we know what you need, and this is what we're going to do to help you." This was a team of Tanzanians, carefully chosen, who went and talked to the elders and asked them what they felt was most important to improve their lives. And so we began, as they suggested, with education for their children, with better health, and with growing more food. But at the same time, introducing family planning, water systems, better hygiene, and all the other things that go to make life better.